to another episode of Driveway Talk. I'm your host, Michael Willis. As usual, thank you for joining me. Recently there's been an uptick in lying. We're all familiar with the big lie from Trump and now the next big lie from Carrie Lake. That's been going on for years. We all know Trump lost. There's no two ways about it, and so did Carrie Lake. And Trump lost because 81 million Republicans and Democrats did not want him as president again. But he keeps it going because it makes him money. We all know that. Or at least if you have a brain and a little bit of common sense, you know that. He's keeping it going because it makes him money. And so are certain news outlets. They kept it going because it made them money. Case in point, Fox News. Now that we are starting to enter the discovery phase of the Dominion lawsuit, bits and pieces about what happened and why they kept the big lie going is coming out. And basically what it boils down to is money. They were afraid to lose viewers to Newsmax if they did not go along with the lie. They know it was a lie. There's been emails and texts starting to come out stating that they knew it was a lie, but because they were afraid to lose viewers, they went with it. And that's just one bit of the lying that's going on now. It's becoming a way of life for politicians. And if you lived any length of life as an adult, we all know politicians lie. They lie about lowering taxes to get elected. They lie about lowering the debt, whatever you can think of. They've lied about just to get elected. But now again, it's been taken to a new level of lying. And basically now people are lying about their whole lives. For example, there's a congressman by the name of Andy Ogles from Tennessee. He's lied about his resume. He said he was an economist and he studied at Middle Tennessee State, social policy and economics. There's no proof of that. That's already been debunked. He's also worked in human trafficking and sex crimes. There's no proof of that. He's about as much of an officer as Herschel Walker was. He's basically some sort of honorary individual that had no actual training or actually assisted. But he's small potatoes compared to the biggest liar I've ever heard of or seen. They lied about their whole life, their resume, everything was a lie. And that liar would be one George Santos. George Santos, or Anthony Devolder, he's the congressman from the 3rd District of New York, which is basically a good part of Long Island. And since he's been elected, several lies have come out that he's told over the years. And pretty much every lie is being debunked and falling apart. Starting with his high school. Said he went to a Horace Mann High School in the Bronx, but had to leave due to parents falling on hard times. School spokesman said he's never attended there. There's no record of him attending. Move on to college. Claims he went to Baruch College with a degree in economics and finance. He also claimed that he played volleyball there while at Baruch. There's no record of Santos being in the class of 2010, as he claims. Santos also states that he attended NYU. Of course, NYU could not corroborate. And later he told the New York Post he didn't graduate from any college or university. He just started look better if he did and give him more clout to get elected if he lied about that. And then shortly after his fake college career, his bio claims he worked on Wall Street. Says he worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup. Neither company has a record of him working at any point there. He's also had several misleading statements and filings of his campaign funds. I did not know this, but he actually ran in 2020 and filed disclosure showing a salary of $55,000 working for a company called Link Bridge Investors. States he introduced investors to a hedge fund managers. Company's founder said Santos was a freelance worker and he worked on commission. He sold sponsorships for events. In 2020, his resume states he worked for Harbor City Capital and said he managed a $1.5 billion fund. Customer told Santos that his promises of full bank guarantees on investments were bogus, which is true. If you know anything about investments, nothing's guaranteed. And then the documents that were sent over to the client, Deutsche Bank claims the guarantee was a complete fraud and not signed by the bank officer on the document. Basically, he's forging documents and giving misinformation. In 2021, he incorporated a company named Devolder, in which he claims he helped rich people buy expensive toys. His 2022 financial disclosures from his congressional campaign shows he made between $3.5 million and $11 million before it was dissolved later in 2022. Santos claims it was a family business, but he had no website, no LinkedIn, no electronic footprint, no social media, no anything. Also listed no clients on his campaign financial disclosures. He would go by the name, while he owned this company, quote unquote, by the name Anthony Devolder. And there's still $700,000 in campaign funds that he claimed or filed that still have no explanation. And he's made several filings with the Federal Election Commission with differing numbers. Even he has pledges from people that don't exist or family members that deny even making a pledge to his campaign. And let's back up a little bit. In 2008, when Santos was in Brazil, he allegedly stole the checkbook of a man his mother was caring for and wrote about $700 in fraudulent checks. His lawyer at the time of the fraud case was convicted. Now get this, was convicted of having a connection to a paid execution. And he was studying law while on house arrest when he was defending Santos on these fraud charges. While in Brazil, he went by Anthony Devolder, and his roommates have no clue who this George Santos is. He also claimed his family ran 13 properties in Brazil, and there's no evidence of the buildings even existing that he's claimed. And ironically, Santos was against the moratorium in New York on evictions during COVID, but he himself has been evicted twice. And then next we move on to his animal charities and / animal cruelty. The Santos campaign bio claimed that he ran a charity called Friends of Pets United, saving 2,500 pets. There's no evidence, and again, no social media, not even any IRS filing. And if you know anything about charities, you have to file with the IRS to get the proper exemptions. No filings in the states of New York and New Jersey either. From records, his charity only had one event, and that event said they never received the funds from Santos. Every time they asked him about where the funds were, he would make excuses. And there's proof that he cashed checks under the name of Anthony Devolder. And then there's the story that made national news. There's a disabled vet whose dog was dying, and he needed $3,000 for surgery for his dog. A veterinarian technician told the disabled vet about Anthony Devolder and his charity, Friends of Pets United, and they started a GoFundMe. Santos refused to give the money to the vet, and later that year, his dog died. There's also the Amish dog breeders. 2017, Santos wrote 9 bad checks to Amish dog breeders for puppies. He then turned around and sold them through his charity under the guise of adopting pets in need. Now, these were purebred dogs, and he's pawning them off as dogs in need while he's writing bad checks to get these dogs. So he spent no money to get them, and he's raking in all this money lying about where he got the dogs. Here's one that's made a lot of news as well. His mother dying on 9/11. So back in July of 2021, Santos tweeted 11 attacks claimed his mother. Later that year, December 23rd of 2021, he tweeted that it was the 5th anniversary of her death. His campaign bio says she was in the South Tower, but in actuality, there's no evidence that she worked at any Twin Tower. And there's actually evidence she was still in Brazil in 2001 when 9/11 happened. She didn't apply for a visa to enter the U.S. until 2003. That's 2 years after she supposedly died in 9/11. Another family lie. He's saying that his grandparents fled the Holocaust. Said his grandparents survived the Holocaust, claimed he had Ukrainian heritage. Genealogy records show he's neither Jewish or of Ukrainian descent. Records actually show his grandparents were born in Brazil. And Santos is actually a very common name in Brazil. Now, here's one that you just have to be an attention-seeking devil to even claim. He's claimed that he had 4 employees that were killed in the Pulse nightclub shooting. No one that's ever worked for his quote-unquote companies were at the Pulse nightclub shooting. And then a strange plot twist to even prove further that he's lying. Just today alone, he co-sponsored a bill with Alabama Congressman Bill Moore and Lauren Boebert, making AR-15 the national gun of America. The same gun used in most of the mass shootings. He's sponsoring a bill to make it the national gun of America. I don't know what that says to you, but it says to me that he's heartless. And if he had any respect for anything, especially being gay, the Pulse nightclub was an LGBTQ plus nightclub. And he's showing that he just doesn't care. He'll jump on anything that will move his campaign further, that will get him going further up the ladder. So he'll jump on any notion without thought. Speaking of, so there's also a bio for a Mr. Anthony Devolder that says he appeared on Hannah Montana and The Sweet Life of Zach Cody. Also said he appeared in a movie called The Invasion starring Uma Thurman. Problem with that is Uma Thurman's never been in a movie called The Invasion. It's another lie, along with being heartless and a thief. And then going back to Brazil, he was a known drag queen there. Several friends in Brazil knew Santos as a drag queen, and he regularly appeared in pageants. He went by the name Kitara, and Santos denied it until photos, interviews, and videos started surfacing. And then, of course, he changed his tune like he's been doing with everything else and said, I had fun at a festival. Sue me for having a life. Meanwhile, it's reported that he wanted to be drag pageant queen. Also, he claimed he was a Broadway producer. Santos claimed he helped produce Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark in 2011. The timeline doesn't match because he was supposedly playing volleyball for Baruch College in 2011, and the real producers deny he had any involvement, which is also strange because it was a massive flop. Everybody lost millions of dollars on this, so it's really weird that he would even claim this. I guess because it was such a flop, he'd think nobody look it up. And recently on a podcast in Brazil, he claimed there was an assassination attempt on his life already since he's been a congressman. There are, of course, no reports of this and no police records of any kind. And of course, due to all of his lies and stealing and bad check, there are several investigations going on right now. Currently, he's being investigated by the Nassau County DA's office, the New York Attorney General, FBI, and DOJ. Ethics complaints have been filed, but so far nothing's been done. And the reason nothing's been done is because the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, he basically has no power to do anything. In his attempt to get the Speaker of the House seat, he basically let them strip him of all power. So if he even tries to confront Santos, Santos can call for a vote to have him removed as Speaker. So he's done nothing. He's also worried about the low margin of victory they have over the Democrats. So he's not going to rock that boat. It just so happens Mr. Ogle, that I mentioned previously, is also a Republican. So that'd be 2 seats that they lose to ethics violations. They're not going to do that because those seats would turn Democratic so fast. So they're not going to do that. But recently there have been a couple people on the Republican side that have grown a pair and said something. And Mr. Anthony D'Esposito, he's in the 4th District in New York and also represents a part of Long Island. He said something. He's filed ethics complaints as well. And also, Mr. Santos has had constituents come to his office and he did not even come out of his office to speak with them. And one other person who actually confronted him to his face during the State of the Union, Mitt Romney. I applaud him for actually standing up and saying the right thing. And he told Santos, you don't belong here. Get in the back. Go hide your face. Do not be standing here in the middle, shaking hands with the president and anybody else that comes down the aisle. You didn't earn this position. You lied your way to it. So, applause and flowers for Mr. Mitt Romney. Unfortunately, lies have become a way of life. And again, it's not the standard lies that politicians used to tell. Lower taxes, lower the deficit, end war, world hunger. No, these are lies that are getting people hurt now. The big lie was a big contributor to January 6th. It was the main contributor to January 6th. Outlets like Fox News, OAN, Newsmax also contributed, and they are still contributing. And then now we have people like Andy Ogles, George Santos slash Anthony Devolder that have completely lied their whole lives. The whole resumes are lies. And in the case of Santos, also committed several crimes, alleged crimes. Let me rephrase. But hopefully, we will get back to having some ethics in politics. We'll get the far right wing MAGA crazies out of office. We'll stand our ground and have some ethics when it comes to people like Santos and Ogle and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert and Jim Jordan. We'll start having some ethics. Cruz, Hawley. But until then, this is what we have. We have a mess in Washington. We have a mess at the state levels, the local levels, and no names like even Carrie Lake are using the big lie to make money and grift. Recently, she turned down an engagement in Michigan because they could not pay her. The Michigan GOP is broke. It was poorly ran, and now they're $2 million in the hole. But hopefully we'll come to our senses. People will start having respect for themselves again and voting for candidates that care about anything other than lying and grifting. Again, well, thank you for listening to me again. This is Driveway Talk. I'm the host, Michael Willis. Please give me a like, a follow, a subscription, rate, review, and you all have a great rest of your evening. Good night.